So I finally had time this week to put hours into Dune Awakening, and man, am I so addicted. Haven't quite got to the deep desert yet, but almost. And this build setup is really helping me destroy higher level enemies. By the way, if you haven't found the Ripper unique scattergun schematic by now, then I suggest you do, because it's one of the better uniques, I must say. It has an effect that causes the enemy to bleed when landing shots. I got mine from this wreck of the 𝐒𝐚𝐭 right here, and I was lucky enough to loot it from the chest because you know it's RNG based. And in every game which has a great build craft system, I always tend to go for bleed builds first. I just love how the effect deals autonomous damage, and it works especially good in this case because in every encounter there'll be more than a few sword bearers just running at you with invincible shields, while the others are providing cover fire for them. You could use disruptors to destroy the shield, which was theoretically a great concept in my head, but in practice, it's not really viable mid-combat with everything going on. They're tossing grenades, providing cover fire, it's just crazy. So you won't really be able to pull it off. The disruptor takes too much time to destroy the shield, and it's basically an SMG that eats ammo, which is something you don't want, because the ammo type for the disruptor, I believe, is light ammo, and this is the ammo type you need for the Ripper scatter shot. And I tell you, that gun eats ammo, like 12 rounds per shot. So yeah, you'll go through it quickly. You want to save it. But the Trooper and Swordmaster combo is perfect. This is what I have going on for my classes, and I'll be focusing on finding the trainers after this build, but I had to show you guys this right away. And I know it's going to be even crazier once I level it up with a trainer. But this build has two playstyles, and the Swordmaster has an ability called Retaliate that, if timed right, will parry, then immediately after counterattack. This is what I was talking about. It deals significant damage and bleeds them despite their shield. So literally ignores it and applies direct damage to the enemy. That's where that autonomous bleed damage begins. You can see them leaking on the ground, and I don't even think the bleed stops until they're dead. And most of the time, aside from those heavy gunners, the ranged enemies don't even have shields. So they're free reigns for me to just pull my Ripper out and one shot almost everything. If they don't get one shot, then they'll definitely die from the bleed. It's the perfect combo. This synergy is really great here. A sword and a shotty, both of them unique. This sword, by the way, is called Pseudo Pulse Sword, which gives a small jolt of energy to the palms when parrying an enemy, offering a small stamina boost. Now, this is really great, and you're going to see why later on when I discuss stamina in detail. So just remember that. But you can parry multiple enemies at once if they're in front of you. One ability I like to pair with Retaliate is Crippling Strike, where you attack the ankle. Another ability that ignores armor. Plus, after landing this, they're slowed and dashes require more stamina on their behalf. A good indicator to know when something is dealing direct damage to the enemy, that armor turns orange, like the slow blade when you do the heavy attacks. The same applies here. So with these two abilities combined, you can completely handicap your opponent, man. It's crazy how effective this strategy is. And of course, the Trooper's Shiga Wire Claw is meta for almost any situation. You can actually pull enemies towards you. I didn't even know this until I did it by accident in combat, and it gets you out of a lot of sticky situations when grenades are tossed at your feet and you can't really get away. But sometimes I'll swap that out for the Eye of the Storm Swordmaster's ability. A very cool whirlwind. Pretty much, it feels like a ultimate ability, to be honest. But it's very cool, and it's a whirlwind of damage that cuts everything around you. And the cooldowns aren't that bad. But I do wish the Trooper's cooldown passives applied to the Swordmasters, but they don't. As you can see, I'm almost level 60 and have enough skill points to max everything before going to the trainer. So of course, you can decide how you want to set this up depending on your playstyle, but I know this especially will help you. For my armor, I'm using the Dune Man Heavy Armor, and there are stats that represent everything that's going on here. As you can see, in my case, some of my armor is pretty worn, so it won't be optimal, but it's still very formidable currently sitting at 474 with almost 50% armor mitigation. So let me break this down a little bit for you. In Dune Awakening, there are 4 armor types: heavy, light, steel suits, and armored steel suits. All have their benefits, especially depending on what class you're using. Now, I prefer to use mostly heavy armor since I have Swordmaster. And this is important to understand, okay? Overall, how damage affects heavy armor versus light armors is not nearly as significant as how it affects your stamina, because you can utilize your raw personal skill as a gamer to avoid damage by dodging and using your overall wits and IQ. Furthermore, the shield makes you invincible until it breaks, if it does at all. And that's the only time the armor and armor mitigation matters. This is why I focus mainly on the stamina aspect. Swordmasters have some great techniques when it comes to that. And remember, I was talking about that ability with the pseudo sword, right? Where when you parry, it gives you a little jolt of stamina. Well, there's one technique called disciplined breathing, wherein you recuperate stamina reserves faster, and general conditioning, which increases your overall stamina past 100%. What about optimized hydration? You'll get 20% more stamina bonus when well hydrated, and that's not even all there is. Plus, these aren't even leveled past 1, and I barely run out of stamina, and if I do, I get it back just like that. And it only gets better once you see the trainer to level them even higher. But my 49% armor mitigation only comes into play after, or if my 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐷 shield even breaks. While the shield is active, it acts as a complete barrier to most projectiles. However, the drill shots are a unique exception. These, man, I got murked by an NPC out in the wilderness somewhere. I was a little bit arrogant. There was some fight going on with the NPCs, and it was this one NPC that was just destroying everyone, right? And I'm like, let me handle her. She hit me with this drill shot. I did not know what it was at first, so I didn't dodge. I immediately went down. So yeah, you got to be careful for these. They're specifically designed to bypass the shield, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on one of these. I'm pretty sure these are meta right now for in-game PvP, because it allows you to directly apply damage to your opponent if they don't dodge in time. And once that damage gets through, let's say if I get hit through the shield, when I got hit back then from that NPC, I didn't really have anything going on with my armor. I wasn't focusing on it per se, so it was probably some light armor that was weak and I got one shot. But let's say I get hit through my shield, my armor value and mitigation percentage begin to reduce how much I'll actually take. That's why I most likely will stick with mainly heavy armor, or at least for this type of build. Never know how it'll go once I start exploring more. So overall, I have Swordmaster and Trooper, but I will say that you should invest at least some in Planetologist a bit to help with shield recharge rates and power capacity for your power packs. But aside from that, you're good to go with this playstyle for now. I don't really have much more to say about this build, but this is definitely not the last one. I am so into this game, man. I did not realize how freaking in depth it was and how much it pulls you in. Like, this is a real game. The combat is not normal like other combat, like the melee. You can sit there for a while fighting some NPCs, and I don't know how it really is in PvP. I don't think people are really dueling. Maybe they are, but I just don't imagine anybody's going to be honorable in that case. But when it comes to just the melee combat, you have to actually think about how you want to perform your attacks. You have to dodge at the right times. So it's not just like simple cut and dry melee combat, and it really helps with replay value, and I love this aspect of it. The NPCs get smarter as you get higher level too, and I can't imagine what other unique schematics there are to find for even more build ideas. Anyways, let me know what you think about this build, and please share below what you've been making in terms of builds, with your best tips and tricks to come with it. I hope this helps, and if it did, then like this video and consider subscribing to join the family. I'll see you in the next one. Be right out.